Disney Star Wars may have just hit rock bottom. Because not only have we had to suffer through the acolytes, but just at the mere notion, the speculation, the rumors that the boss of Lucasfilm, Kathleen Kennedy, would be exiting the company, causing fans to erupt in thunderous applause. Only for Kathy to strike back and say, "No, I will be making Disney Star Wars until I die." Meaning that us fans are gonna have to seek refuge from whatever slop we'll be getting next. And during times like these, what I think we could really be using about now is just a good, fantastic Star Wars show. Something to give us any sense of relief at all for us fans who are just starving for good storytelling. Maybe something like Andor. And you know, there's a funny thing about Andor because I could easily be accused as somebody who just automatically hates everything new from Star Wars. But I am fully expecting Andor Season 2 to be pretty good. As you have to remember, with Andor, it has the prestigious title of being the only thing on Disney Plus to not have anything embarrassing in it. And now, after what we've seen from the trailer for Season 2, outside of that really cringy music, it seems like we're getting more of what we liked from Season 1. So I think that worst case scenario, we get a show that might be a little dry, but has some good moments in there. But best case scenario, we get a complete continuation from Season 1, we get an excellently crafted script, a show with a lot of heart, and we get to see the birth of the rebellion. But although I'm expecting some pretty big things from Andor, I still don't think it's ever going to do enough to turn Star Wars around. I don't think we should look to Andor as the savior of the franchise. And that's because, well, Andor Season 1, as excellent as a show as it was, it did not capture the hearts and the minds of the fan base. And you hear time and time again that it's boring and does not feel like real Star Wars. And it's kind of undeniable as fans didn't show up to watch it. Now, I wouldn't say that I would fit into this demographic. I think Andor takes a lot of care to fit into Star Wars, because not only do you see a lot of stormtroopers in the show, that's a bit of a surface level example, but it goes far beyond that to give you a very complete and detailed, logical look on how the Empire would operate on such a large scale. And I think another little fun tidbit, maybe you could say, a fun fact, that kind of furthers this point of Andor putting a lot of care to make sure that it fits into the franchise, is that they purposely gave a lot of their main characters haircuts that would match the hairstyles that you would see in the late 70s and 80s to make sure that matches up with what you would see in the original trilogy. But even though with all these examples of Andor trying to make sure it fits in with the universe, I totally understand why people say that doesn't feel like real Star Wars. When they watch Andor, they don't feel like they're watching Star Wars. And I think that comes down to two main things. The first one being is that Andor is striving to be maybe what you consider a prestige television series. Maybe like a show that you would see on HBO Max. Take something like a Succession, Mad Men, Sopranos, Breaking Bad, for example. Shows that kind of differ a lot from the original trilogy. They try to have very sophisticated storytelling, try to really appeal to critics. And I think a big difference comes down to, well, the worldview or the tone of the story. These stories tend to be very pessimistic. Their ethics tend to be very morally gray, which is a lot different from what you would see in, say, the original trilogy, which is very optimistic. It's very courageous and brave, and its characters are very heroic. And another big difference is that most of the scenes in these shows tend not to be TIE fighters flying around getting blown up, but are typically two people standing in a room talking, trying to do a lot of political maneuvering, trying to move pieces around on a chessboard, tries to be very sophisticated in its dialogue, which doesn't really match up with the target demographic of a fun, family-friendly movie for all ages. And I think that's something that is a bit underrated, maybe you could say, of the original trilogy, especially in New Hope, is that they do have these scenes that do a lot of world building through getting a lot of politics in there, but they truncate them and make them very strong, powerful, and to the point, and end up being some of the most iconic scenes. Just think about Vader sitting in a room with all the Imperial officials and saying,
"I find your lack of faith disturbing."
And because those scenes are shorter and to the point, very powerful, you're able to keep the plot moving and keep everybody engaged. But as Andor tends to have entire episodes being dedicated to a lot of dialogue, it makes Andor even more frustrating in its appeal to a more niche demographic. That because Star Wars hasn't had a good movie in over a decade, because The Mandalorian has been getting worse and worse with every season, because Kenobi's been kind of pathetic, and The Acolyte was, well, The Acolyte. So as we think about Andor Season 2, if it's going to bring a lot of elements from Season 1 in, somebody like myself is going to be unbelievably excited. But if we think big picture for the future of Star Wars, I don't think it's going to do anything to move the needle. Instead, we're going to get more of the same and have a lot of Star Wars slop shoved down our throats.
Thanks for watching
Duck Finder
on YouTube. For more premium content, subscribe.
Just like the simulation,